we want the listeners to know a little bit more about you and your journey before the show. So I understand that you left your corporate job to work in the modeling industry in 2018.
I
Now,
did.
okay, so let me get this straight. Like career changes like that can be really scary. So can you take us back and tell us what that transition was like?
Yeah. I mean, I am from Georgia, so I moved up to New York about 6 years ago. And when I first moved here, I was working in corporate in the fashion industry because that's what my degree's in. Um, so I kind of always knew I wanted to be a model even
Yeah,
since I
you
was
about this
little.
life.
So when I moved up here and I was working in corporate, I liked it. And, that's what I went to school for. But I kind of always had modeling in the back of my head. And then I would go into work in the office and everyone would be like, what are you doing here, girl? Like, you should be on a runway. And I was just like, oh, okay, you're right.
You're
I
right.
need to go ahead and do that now before I get too old. Um, so I quit. And I was like, you know what? There's a million agencies in New York. One of them is bound to sign me, I hope. And then I got signed by two agencies and then
Love
started
that.
working full time modeling.
Love that.
Wow. And I mean, I got to give it to you because you showed out, Mike. I'm sure you will agree. Night one, I mean, you stole the show with that dress. I mean, you killed
Thank
it.
you.
You killed it. So, like,
Thank you.
what advice would you give someone out there who's like in a similar position like you were in 2018, and is hesitant to take that leap of faith and just go for their dreams like you did?
Um, I mean, I'm very much a person that wants to rather say I went for it and it didn't work out rather than be like, I wonder what if. So
Yeah.
my advice is always go for it. If you fail, you fail, but you're not going to regret trying it.
Yeah.
And if I was still sitting at that office and I never tried and I was like, oh, I feel like I missed my shot, I would have been very, very upset with myself. So yeah, the only advice I have is just go for it. I think you can always go back to what you were doing before.
True.
So yeah.
Love that. Love
I
that.
completely agree with that. When I left the military, they said I was stupid, and I'm like, bro, there's things outside of this, And,
Yeah.
and we're talking here now. Can you tell the listeners, because we checked you out. I want them to know how bossed up you are. Like, what are some of the things that you've done in the modeling industry?
I can brag, I guess.
Yeah, we've learned on this podcast a humble brag goes a very long way. We appreciate it.
Um, I mean, I've done New York Fashion Week a bunch of times,
Yeah,
a lot of bridal fashion shows. I did Paris Fashion Week for the first time last year.
yeah.
I was on a billboard in Times Square last year. I was in British Vogue last year.
Talk that talk, girl.
So yeah, those are just a few of the things.
we
So
love to hear it.
I'm interested to know because obviously with the pandemic, the modeling industry like has taken a hit. I'm sure jobs have dried up. The advertising budgets are less. Runway shows have been canceled, things of that nature. So, how have you overcome that, like in your career, and like where do you see like the modeling moving forward with this new world?
Yeah. I mean,
Good
it's
question.
definitely been hard. It was kind of at the peak of my career, honestly, right when COVID started. It was last March. I was actually in Paris for Fashion Week, and then we got back just in time before they closed the borders.
Wow.
So it got really slow. Obviously, I was like sitting in my house. My agency's closed for a while. There was no work. Fashion Week's pretty much been not even near close to the same since then. Like even last month, everything's virtual. So I'd usually be running around to a bunch of castings in February. Like this is the busiest time for me, and it's just pretty slow. But it's starting to pick back up. I mean, I'm hoping that when the vaccines get out to more people, then we can kind of get back to normal.
Hopefully so.
Because there's just the energy you get when you do a live show. Like there's nothing like that in the virtual without an audience. It's like, it's sad. So I want to get back to that.
Can you describe the best walk that you've done? Like, what was the scene? Like, was there? I know I used to watch America's Next Top Model with my family, or
Same.
whatever. Like, what was the best walk that you've done?
Like,
Runway, shall I say?
I think that there's like three main venues in New York where the big fashion shows are at. And the first time I walked at Spring Studios was probably my one of my favorite times, just because I was like, oh shit, I I made it. I'm at the big
made
venue.
it.
Like all the like huge supermodels walk here. So yeah, that was a couple years ago, but that was definitely my favorite show.